The brick, my hands were bleeding. I sat on that pile of rubble, staring at my palms, watching the blood mix with the red dust of broken bricks. I was 14 years old and I hated my life. You want to know the moment everything changed for me? It wasn't in a classroom. It wasn't from a book. It was on a demolition site, on a Saturday morning when I should have been playing basketball, listening to a man with grapple in his voice tell me something that would take me 20 years to fully understand. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning. The neighborhood I grew up in wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't safe either. It was the kind of place where you learned to keep your head down, your voice low, and your dreams to yourself. Because dreaming too loud in a place like that just makes the disappointment louder when they don't come true. My dad worked double shifts at a factory that made something I never quite figured out. He'd leave before sunrise and come back after dark, his face streaked with grease, his shoulders curved forward like they were permanently shaped by the weight of the day. My mom cleaned houses for people who lived on the other side of town, the side where the streets had actual trees and the houses had actual lawns. Money was a ghost in our house. You always knew it was missing, but you never actually saw it. I used to sit on the front steps of our rental house and watch the cars drive by. Not the beat-up trucks and rusted sedans that belonged to our neighbors. I watched the nice ones, the clean ones. I'd imagine myself behind the wheel, not as a delivery driver like my dad's friends, but as the guy who owned the company, the guy who built something. I just didn't know what. That Saturday morning started like any other. I was sprawled on the couch, half asleep, dreaming about the basketball game my friends were probably already playing without me. Then I heard the front door open. My dad stood there, still in his work boots, still in his factory clothes. But it was Saturday. He never worked Saturdays. He walked over and sat on the edge of the coffee table. His hands were rough, calloused, permanently stained with oil. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. "Leo," he said, his voice tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "The old Henderson place down the street is coming down. They're building a laundromat. The foreman's an old buddy of mine. Name's Gus. He needs someone to haul bricks from the demolition pile to the dumpster. It's hard work, but he'll pay you $20 for the day." I stared at the 20, then at him, then back at the 20. "For the whole day?" I asked. "For the whole day." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him I had plans, that it wasn't fair, that $20 wasn't worth losing my Saturday. But I looked at his face. I looked at the way his shoulders slumped, the way his eyes avoided mine, and I knew the argument was lost before it started. I took the 20, I got dressed, I walked to the Henderson place. The house was a skeleton. They'd already taken the roof, the windows, most of the walls. What was left was a pile of rubble that had once been someone's home. Splintered wood, twisted pipes, and bricks, thousands of bricks, red, soot-stained, covered in old mortar, scattered across the dirt like the bones of some enormous animal. A man stood near the pile. He was built like a bulldog, wide, thick, with arms that looked like they'd been carved from oak. His face was weathered, creased, and he chewed on an unlit cigar like it was the only thing keeping him standing. He looked me up and down, spat on the ground. "Gus," he said, extending a hand that swallowed mine whole. "You're the kid." "I'm Leo." He pointed to the pile. Then he pointed to a massive green dumpster about 50 feet away. "See that pile? See that dumpster? Your job is to connect the two, by hand. Get to it." And that was it. No welcome, no instructions, no water break. I walked to the pile, grabbed the first brick I could reach, and threw it into the dumpster as hard as I could. Asterisk clang dot asterisk. It felt good. So I grabbed another, and another. I wasn't moving bricks. I was punishing them. Every throw was my dad working double shifts. Every throw was a house we couldn't afford. Every throw was the basketball game I was missing. Every throw was my stupid, pointless life. Asterisk clang, plang dot asterisk. The sun got higher. The sweat soaked through my shirt. My hands started to burn. I looked down and saw blisters forming on my palms, pink and raw. I kept going. I threw harder. I wanted the bricks to feel my anger. I wanted them to hurt like I hurt. But the pile didn't seem to shrink. If anything, it looked bigger. Around noon, Gus ambled over. He carried 2 bottles of water and 2 sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. He sat on a stack of lumber and gestured for me to join him. I didn't want to. I wanted to keep throwing, but my arms were jelly and my stomach was growling. I sat. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The sandwich was good ham and cheese, simple, perfect. The water was cold. I hated how much I appreciated it. You're working hard, Gus finally said. I'll give you that. I nodded, my mouth full. But you're working stupid. I stopped chewing, looked at him. What's that supposed to mean? I'm moving your stupid bricks, aren't I? He chuckled. A low rumble in his chest. He pointed at the dumpster. See those? You threw them in there like they were garbage. Now they're just broken up garbage. Worthless. He pointed to a small, neat stack of bricks near the foundation of the old house. I hadn't noticed them before. See those? I pulled those out yesterday. Clean ones, solid ones. Took my time. They're not going in the dumpster. They're going to the new site. Someone's gonna use them to build a wall. Maybe a garden. Something that lasts. He picked up a brick from the ground near his feet. It was ugly, chipped, covered in crusty old mortar. Same brick, same sun, same me, but a completely different outcome. He turned the brick over in his hands. Why? I shook my head. I didn't know. He took a bite of his sandwich, chewed, swallowed. Then he held the brick up between us. This brick, he said, it's been through the fire. They make these things in kilns, you know, heat hot as hell. Then this one sat in a wall for 40 years, held up a roof through rain and snow and blistering heat, did its job. But now the old house is gone, so the brick has a choice. I stared at him. Was he seriously giving a brick a choice? It can see itself as trash, he continued. It can say, my purpose is over. Throw me away. He tossed the brick lightly, caught it. It can see itself as material, raw material for something new. The only difference is how you choose to hold it. He reached out and placed the brick gently in my blistered hands. It was heavy, warm from the sun. You've been throwing your bricks, kid. You've been looking at your life, your blisters, your dad's tired face, this stupid job, and you're calling it garbage. You're letting the weight of it make you angry. He leaned closer. But what if you looked at it differently? What if all of this isn't a pile of rubble you have to get rid of? What if it's the raw material for the life you're going to build? He stood up, dusted off his pants, walked away, and left me sitting there holding that brick, with a thought that was heavier than any pile of rubble. I don't know how long I sat there, long enough for the sandwich to settle. Long enough for the sweat to dry on my skin, long enough for the anger to drain out of me and something else to take its place. I looked at the brick in my hands, really looked at it. It was ugly, chipped, covered in old mortar, but underneath all that, it was solid. It was true. It had been through fire and weather and 40 years of holding up a roof. It had survived the demolition. It was still here. I looked at the pile, then at the dumpster, then at the small stack of Gus's keeper bricks. I stood up, walked to the pile, and picked up a brick. But this time, I didn't throw it. I turned it over in my hands, wiped the dust off, scraped at the old mortar with my thumbnail. It was cracked clean through. Garbage. I carried it to the dumpster and placed it inside. No anger, just acceptance. I picked up another. This one was just dusty. The edges were sharp. The surface was smooth underneath the grime. I carried it to Gus's keeper pile and set it down gently, like it mattered. For the rest of the afternoon, I worked that way. Slow, deliberate, sorting. Some bricks were cracked beyond use. Those went to the dumpster. Some were solid but covered in mortar that could be chipped away. Those went to a second pile. Some were nearly perfect. Those went with Gus's keepers. The blisters on my hands didn't stop hurting, but they stopped being an enemy. They were just part of the work, the cost of doing business. At the end of the day, Gus came back. He looked at my 3 piles. He looked at the dumpster full, but not overflowing with perfectly good bricks. He looked at the keeper pile neat, impressive, substantial. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 20s. Not one. You learned the lesson, he said. This is your bonus. You didn't just move bricks today, Leo. You built something. I took the money, $40, twice what I'd expected. I walked home that evening, my body screaming, my mind on fire. I saved that $40. The next weekend, I went back to the site. Gus put me to work again. I worked every weekend that summer. I saved almost every penny. I wasn't hauling bricks anymore. I was collecting raw material. High school came. I got a job at a grocery store. It was easy to fall back into the old habit, to see it as garbage. Boring work, low pay, demanding customers. I could feel the old anger bubbling up sometimes, the urge to just throw the bricks and collect a paycheck. But then I'd remember Gus. I'd remember the brick. I'd remember the question, asterisk, what if this isn't garbage? What if it's material, asterisk? So I started sorting. I didn't just stock shelves. I learned the inventory system. I paid attention to what sold and what didn't. I asked the manager questions. I watched how he scheduled shifts, how he handled complaints, how he ordered supplies. I didn't just complain about the rude customers. I learned how to talk to them, how to de-escalate their anger, how to turn them from complainers into regulars. I learned that most people aren't angry at you, they're just carrying their own bricks, and they don't know what to do with them. The boring job wasn't garbage, it was a classroom. The long hours weren't a punishment, they were tuition. I was collecting more bricks. By the time I was 22, I had a small nest egg saved up. I'd taken business courses at the community college at night, paid for by the grocery store job. I'd watched, I'd learned, I'd sorted, and I'd noticed something. My town had factories with night shifts. It had a hospital with graveyard shifts. It had people who got off work at midnight, hungry, tired, with nowhere to go except the all-night gas station for stale sandwiches and microwave burritos. There was no place to get a decent, quick, affordable meal after 9 p.m. That was the gap. That was my wall. I found a small, rundown space for rent. It used to be a hot dog stand. It had been empty for 2 years. The windows were cracked. The grill was rusted. The floor was sticky with decades of grease. It was a pile of rubble. Everyone told me I was crazy. The location was bad. That place was cursed. I had no experience running a restaurant. I was going to lose everything. I just smiled. I'd heard it all before. I knew the difference between a cracked brick and a dusty one. The renovation took 6 weeks. My friends helped after their own jobs. We scrubbed. We painted. We fixed. We built rickety tables from reclaimed wood. We patched the holes in the walls. We deep cleaned that ancient grill until it gleamed. Every problem that came up, and there were many, was just another brick. The refrigerator broke the day before we opened. Brick. We fixed it. The health inspector showed up unannounced and found 3 violations. Brick. We fixed them. The supplier backed out at the last minute, leaving us without flour. Brick. I drove 2 hours to another city at midnight to pick it up myself. I didn't see these things as reasons to quit. I saw them as raw material. Some were cracked, those were lessons to be discarded and learned from. Some were keepers, those became policies, procedures, a stronger foundation. On the night of our soft opening, I stood outside the little restaurant and looked at the sign. The Midnight Brick Oven. Silly name, but it was mine. The neon flickered to life. I looked at my hands. They were still rough, still calloused, but now they were the hands of a builder. I looked down at the sidewalk, and there, holding the door open, was a simple red brick. I bent down and picked it up. It was heavy, muff, warm from the day's sun, and I remembered the pile of rubble. I remembered Gus's gravel voice. I remembered the blisters, the anger, the $20 bill. I remembered the question, asterisk, what if this isn't garbage? What if it's material, asterisk? That brick had been through the fire. It had sat in a wall for 40 years. It had survived the demolition, and now it was holding open the door of my restaurant. Same brick, same sun, but a completely different outcome. The only difference was how I chose to hold it. That was 15 years ago. The Midnight Brick Oven is still there. We've expanded to 3 locations now. We employ 40 people, most of them kids from the same neighborhood I grew up in. Kids who need a chance. Kids who need to learn the difference between throwing bricks and building with them. I still have that first brick. It sits on my desk. Paperweight, reminder, anchor. People come to me, sometimes young people, mostly, and they ask me how I did it, how I built something from nothing. They want the secret. They want the shortcut. They want the magic formula. I don't give them a lecture. I don't give them a book. I hand them the brick. This, I tell them, this is the secret. They look at it, confused, disappointed. It's just a brick. Yeah, I say, I know. But look closer, and I tell them the story. Asterisk, asterisk, the screen fades back to the opening shot. The rough, calloused hands holding the brick. But now we see the face. It's older, wider, kind eyes. It's Leo, asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Leo looking directly at the camera, asterisk, asterisk. So I have to ask you, what are you holding right now? Are you holding a problem? A rejection? A failure? A dead-end job? A broken relationship? A health scare? A dream that feels impossible? Are you looking at it and calling it garbage? Or are you holding it like a brick? Are you feeling its weight? Examining its edges? Scraping off the old mortar? Are you asking yourself, asterisk, what if this isn't the end? What if this is just the raw material? What if this struggle, this pain, this disappointment, what if it's not here to break me, but to build me, asterisk? The brick doesn't care how you hold it. It's just a brick. The pile doesn't care how you move it. It's just a pile. But you get to choose. You get to choose whether you spend your life throwing bricks in anger, watching them disappear into the dumpster of regret, or whether you start sorting, start building, start laying a foundation for something that will last. The fire is hot. The work is hard. Your hands will blister and bleed. That's not a bug. That's a feature. That's how you know you're in the kiln. That's how you know you're becoming something stronger. The old house is gone. The rubble is here. What are you going to build? Asterisk, asterisk, the music swells. Leo holds the brick up one last time, then sets it down gently on the table. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Leo, asterisk, asterisk. If this story meant something to you, if you felt that shift inside, that little click of recognition, do me a favor. Take a second right now and look at your hands. Whatever you're holding, whatever you're carrying, ask yourself, asterisk, is this garbage or is this material, asterisk? And then hit that like button. Not for me, for you, as a reminder that you chose to stop scrolling and listen to something that matters. Share this video with someone who's struggling right now, someone who's in the middle of their own demolition, who can't see past the pile of rubble. Send it to them. Tell them Leo sent it. Tell them to keep sorting. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell, because we're building something here together, one brick at a time. My name is Leo. Thank you for listening. Now go build something.